I'm an open book, whether it's learn from my mistakes, learn from my pain, or here's what I've done that has worked for me. I love sharing those things. Like I part of that's, I've had great mentors in my life, both in real estate and out. And I really get a high in energy, like an energy boost from when people call and it's like, hey, like, man, where are you at? Just share whatever's going on. If I can help, again, open book. If not, I'll try to connect you with somebody that can.
Welcome to the Justin Landis Show, your real estate podcast about having conversations, building relationships, and creating freedom. And today I am here with Kris Willis, one of the top Bolst agents and an awesome guy. Kris, thanks for being here.
Hey, I'm appreciated for having me.
All right, Kris, we got to start at the beginning. You had, I'd say, an unconventional path to real estate. You were all over the Pacific and Asia, and then next thing you know, you're selling houses. How did that happen?
Yeah, I guess it's all about people and relationships.
I think we might hear that theme today.
Yeah, there'll definitely be a theme. That's my through line for everything in life, I feel like. Yeah, I was in sales, worked for a Japanese company, for a while, worked for a tech startup, and I was in Asia Pacific all the time. And there were aspects of that I loved. The relationships, the people, kind of like the building, of that. I didn't necessarily love the, kind of what have you done for me lately? Hey, you had a great quarter. Let's
up your quota.
Yeah, let's up your quota, and we're going to cut your territory in half. Yeah, that's like the best feeling. And so having hit that ceiling a number of times in a row, I was actually cordially invited to pick my last day at the last role that I had prior to real estate. That was full-time. I was manager of a small sales team. And I just said, I need to do something different. Yep. This hasn't been working. I'm feeling burnt out. And I've been doing photography for about 10 years at that point, kind of on the side, doing weddings and portraits and whatnot, just kind of like a creative outlet.
And that was your original connection to real estate, was through photography.
That was my connection, yeah. So a buddy of mine introduced me to Rich Richardson, who had been in the business for a number of years at that point. He said, maybe you can do his listing photos. If nothing else, he's just a good guy to connect with. And so Rich and I sat down, grabbed lunch, and Rich is extremely relational. We just started talking about life. And he said, have you ever been interested in real estate? And in my mind, I was like, well, yeah, I mean, everybody has. I never really had an impetus to get in the business. And he was looking to grow his team. And that's really was the initial connection that kicked all that off back in, I guess that was like November of 2015.
What was it for you that gave you the confidence or let you know, like, hey, I should take this step into real estate?
Yeah, I mean, at that time, again, I decided to do photography full time while I was, figuring things out, whether that meant stick with that or I was actually looking at other, career opportunities and changes. And I was like 2 or 3 interviews in actually at that time. It was a men's kind of fashion, thing. I'm into fashion and whatnot. That was interesting. I was like, well, let me try that out. And after meeting with Rich and I was looking at what the life of real estate looked like, I said, I think this makes more sense for what I want my life to look like. And so I decided to, go after my license the beginning of the following year. But really what made me, interested in it was seeing how Rich was living his life and him being an extremely relational person. And we had that first lunch and he said, let's reconnect in a couple of weeks. And he's heard me tell this before. I think he was out on a ski trip, somewhere like Breckenridge or somewhere. Rich, he's a great traveler.
Every story about Rich Richardson has something to do with a ski trip.
Absolutely. Yes. And so he calls me maybe like a few days before we're supposed to meet up again. He said, hey, Kris, I'm here in Breckenridge, but the snow is really good in Tahoe. I think I'm going to extend the trip for 3 or 4 days.
You know who was taking care of his business while he was doing that? It was probably me.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, he's doing something right. I know he's successful in real estate. I know he's living his life well, treating the people around him well. That was really intriguing to me that he was able to balance, all those things. And so that was kind of like, okay, that's a version of this business that I want to emulate.
Let's go further down that because I also had the opportunity for Rich to be a mentor of mine and to see how he ran his business. As you started to see more of it and started to do it, what was it about Rich's business that really stood out for you as like, this is a great way to do it?
Yeah, Rich is one of the most relational and authentic people that I know. And so I would see the way that he would treat clients. If he's in the neighborhood, then he would give them a call. It wasn't ever salesy. And that spoke a lot to me because I never wanted to be the person that when they saw my name pop up, on the phone, it was like, oh, like, you know that feeling when somebody calls you, they haven't reached out in 5 years and like, oh, this person wants something from me. And what I saw was the opposite of that. And I saw the way that people genuinely reached out to him for advice. And, when they had a real estate need or otherwise, they would reach out. He was just a great resource, an advisor. And that really aligned with the past things in past sales roles that I did enjoy. That was my favorite part.
How did you start to make that your own? Because each person is unique, and I mean, there's nobody like Rich, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we both had to see it and make it our own.
Yeah.
How did you start to make that relational, taking care of people business that he was doing into the business that worked for you?
Yeah, I think, at least from the way that I kind of view things, I have to observe and I have to talk to as many people that are in the business so that I can kind of get a picture of, this is like, as far as East and West, goes, this is the spectrum of how you can run it.
Yep.
And then once I see certain things that I resonate with, it's like, okay, I can take a bit of that and I can take a bit of this. And then I'm going to bring in my own kind of sauce to the pot. And, after a while, you kind of realize, okay, this is kind of the way that I'm doing it. And this is working, or I need to tweak something here. It's just kind of like, there's always an evolution of.
So what were the, if you had to say the one or two things you took from Rich, and then the one or two things that were your special sauce that you put together in that pot, what would you say those things are?
Yeah. Rich he still does a great job of putting people at ease and establishing trust, like really early on. So I would watch him do listing presentations, and he's got it all up here. He's done all of his research on the front side, but the person doesn't.
He's not bringing a
big
packet
binder.
Yeah.
So he knows his numbers, he knows the market, and all those things. But really, it's connecting with the person because you are in that person's home. This is their life. This is the biggest thing that's going on for them at that moment. So I've seen him do that. On one side, I've seen, I went out looking, one time we were doing a showing, and we pull up in the driveway, and he says, Kris, what do you think about the home? I'm like, well, we haven't even gone out of the house, out of the car yet. And he already has like 5 or 6 things to talk about. And I'm like, okay, this starts before you even get here. We're turning into the neighborhood. So again, I see like he's on way before I was even thinking of really like recording. And so that's something that I bring in, and he's got something to add, like value add, in every room in the house. So again, I would just kind of sit back in shadow and watch how he treated his clients.
What would you say is on your special sauce side? What are the couple things that completely unique to you that you feel like you've brought to this business?
Yeah, it's a mix of things. I'm a mix. He could answer this. I'm a mix of an extrovert, and an introvert, ambivert, I guess. Like a 62 maybe on that scale. If 100 is full on extrovert. I love personality tests and all things, so I've taken all of them. So I love being out with people. Initially, that was really the chief way that I would build my business is if there's a birthday party, if there's a hangout, if there's a kickback, if there's whatever, my answer is going to be yes unless it's a no. And I'm not one to ever bring up, hey, I'm in real estate, this is what I'm doing. Just being genuine with people. And, I've had a number of conversations where afterwards somebody would say to me, man, this was a great conversation. Like, we had such a good time. When I only asked like 5 things, they were talking 90% of the time.
Yeah.
People want to feel like you're interested in what they have going on in their lives. And eventually they'll ask, how's the market?
Yep.
Or what do you do if this is my first time meeting them? It's like, oh, well, this is what I do. This is the market, et cetera. Everybody's interested in it somewhat because like everybody has to live somewhere.
That is a nice
that.
thing about this industry.
Yeah. And so I would just kind of marry whatever my interests were, whether it was, I was big in dance and music, whether it was like, hey, there's a bourbon tasting, situation. I would just go to have a good time, and I would invite, a couple of friends to come along with me. And whether I got business or not, I had a good time.
Yep.
But I think when you're doing the things that you're already interested in, like people are attracted to that. Like there's a different energy, going on. So I really tried to hone in on that.
Awesome. And so you were with Rich for a pretty long time, and then you decided to go out on your own.
Yeah.
And became individual, one of the top agents at Bolst. What was it that made you decide, hey, now it's time for me to do it myself?
Yeah. That was a conversation, that we'd been having, throughout. And from day one, Richard always said, whenever you feel like you want to go out on your own, you have my full blessing, which I really appreciated that. And, Rich is a man of his word. It was a mix of things, but a big part of that was, wanting to, I think some of that was wanting to test myself. And, it's fantastic having the covering, I would say, of a team and having those resources and camaraderie. I wanted to build something, and it wasn't about having my name on it per se, but if I wanted to be able to shift and do things and maybe bring somebody on to be able to do things in a manner that really reflected who I was.
Yep.
Not to say I couldn't do that on the team, but I always wanted to make sure that, I'm building into what was already there. And that was just time for me to kind of spread my wings and try
How
it
did
out.
the day-to-day change immediately? It sounds like, as we were talking about, you're kind of surprised about that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was almost, you could expect that a lot of things would change, and in one sense, not a lot did. Whether you're on a team or not, you are still accountable for your business.
Yes.
And that's going to be the same for anybody, anywhere. You still have to meet people. You still have to, make your calls, have your conversations. Yep. You still have to take the deal from beginning to end. What I did feel changed was is a business of accountability. That just increases. So now really you are managing everything. You're managing, maybe it's all the marketing. You're managing really your own mental and emotional bandwidth. This is a business where you can succeed on your own. I forget the adage about going far quickly and going far with people, but you can get burnt out even easier and even quicker when you're on your own because you can just be on an island.
Yeah.
And so that was the thing I had to be very intentional about.
Which is something that you weren't as intentional about before.
No.
Before Bolst and before being on your own.
Yeah.
So how did you realize like, hey, there is a risk of being on an island? What'd you do about that?
Yeah. For me, it was making the choice, and I'm already one to show up to our brokerage-wide meetings because that's really important. I get a lot out of those. But taking that a step further and not just having the casual kind of rubbing elbows conversations with other agents in the office, but let's take that a step further. Let's we have a mastermind. We've got a couple group chats that I'm on. For a while I would meet with a couple other agents at the brokerage an hour or two before we'd had the monthly sales meeting just to. Hey, what's going on with your business? How can we help each other? What are resources that we can share? Also, just, you feel crazy when you're on your own, but hey, 7 other people that are also producing are going through the same thing. And it's like, great. We all, this is a business where different parts of town, things can be different neighborhoods.
Oh, yeah.
So let's look at our data points and see what's the same and see what's not.
I think that's such a great point because it can be really lonely in this business,
Yeah.
which is odd because it's a people business.
Yeah.
And a reason a lot of people get into it is they're as extroverted or more than you, And like, oh, it's a people business. And then you're like, I feel like I'm alone and on an island. And so there's anybody listening to that who feels that way. You just rattled off a lot of things that you've done. But what would be the first couple steps you would advise somebody if they feel like they're on an island and they want that community with other agents and other people they're doing this with?
Yeah. The easiest thing is just to come to the office. Like if you've got a place like a market center, good things are like so many good conversations happen that I didn't plan on happening, but just because people are here, it's like, I was Rachel Smith, who's another agent, a great agent at the office, just bumped into her on Wednesday. I just happened to be here at the office. And had an hour-long convo. And, it's you see people that run their businesses similar to you and that run their businesses differently than you do. And both of those are good encounters because one, it could be reaffirming, hey, I'm doing the right things. And on the other side, it's, I didn't even think I could do that. You're constantly learning, but that will help. Otherwise, the people that don't ever show up, I think you can be successful, but you're just making it more difficult for you too.
Yeah, man, I so agree. What about an agent? So you mentioned like you and Rachel, both top producers. What would you say to somebody that maybe is newer and they might be nervous of like, I've got nothing to share with Kris. Like I'm only like learning, like I want to learn from him or I want to be around, but I don't have anything to offer.
Yeah.
What advice would you give that person?
Yeah, man, reach out. I'm an open book, whether it's learn from my mistakes, learn from my pain, or here's what I've done that has worked for me. I love sharing those things. Like I part of that's, I've had great mentors in my life, both in real estate and out. And I really get a high in energy, like an energy boost from when people call and it's like, hey, like, man, where are you at? Just share whatever's going on. If I can help, again, open book. If not, I'll try to connect you with somebody that can.
Man, I know that's so true about you. And it's true about a lot of real estate agents. In my observation, a lot of the best real estate agents, you might think like, oh, this is like the sales killer and like but usually it's people that want to help people.
Yeah.
And so the helping also comes with that other newer agent or somebody that's reaching out.
Yeah.
I mean, I've found that to be true in a lot of cases.
Yep. I also thought, kind of getting into the business, that it would be very either catty or like, oh, I don't want to share my secret sauce. Yep. My experience has been the complete opposite, of that. And I was a little apprehensive about, reaching out to people. Some of that's internal and like, oh, I don't want anybody to know that I don't know. But one, people know if you don't know, you're new. Like you shouldn't know everything coming in.
Yes. You're better off not knowing and finding out.
Yeah. I'd rather maybe look silly, silly, quote unquote, around other agents that are experienced than you'd rather do it then than be out in the deal and not know. Because now like it's real life. So, do it behind closed doors where it's, this is a safe space and, people are just here willing to help.
Yeah, Kris, that actually reminds me of a story. Early on, I had an agent who was dealing with a multiple offer situation and I checked in with him and he was about to like botch it up. I mean, completely like botch it up where the client wasn't going to get as much as possible. The agents are going to be mad at him, and my first thought was like, man, how could he not know this? But then I had the thought of like, how could he actually know this, And it's like, man, I'm so thankful that we got the opportunity to talk through it and figure it out so that the client could get the best result, so that the other agents we're, treated fairly and transparently, and we're not upset about it. And that has always changed my perspective of like, man, it's so much better for the industry, for everybody, for the newer agents or an agent doing something for the first time to come to somebody more experienced. And so many agents like yourself are willing to share and help people through that. And that does help our whole industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had a coach for 1 year, and I've talked with you about this, but this is also applicable even if you don't. But again, just under the theme of asking people, and even something as simple as like a special stipulation, on a contract. And there's something that I always include now. It's a quality of life, step where any due diligence period or any contingency period was going to end. Let's say it could be 7:30 p.m., 8 o'clock p.m. And initially, I didn't know that existed, or that we could do that. But two, I've had the deals where we're negotiating at 11:50 p.m. on a Saturday night.
Oh, yeah.
When people are out and you can't get a hold and it's stressful and you're sending out termination. Nobody wants that on either side of the deal. But again, if I hadn't met with somebody that recommended, hey, put this in, this is not just beneficial for you or your clients, but good for everybody.
Yes.
Those are those things that, again, when we're talking about burnout, that make you feel like you can do this for longer and be better at it.
What else because burnout, especially at your production level and tenure, it's so real. What else has helped you avoid or, minimize the burnout?
Yeah. It's funny talking about that step. It's a boundary. It really is what it is. And in this business, it's very easy to get into that mindset or the posture of I'm available at all times.
Yep.
And that is how I ran my business for the first easily 5 years.
Oh, same here.
Yeah.
Yes.
And part of me enjoyed that, to a sense. It's like, hey, I'm working, I'm doing things, I'm available to people.
I'm making it happen.
Serving, I'm making it happen. You're doing what you have to do. But that's not sustainable for anybody. And some people can do that for a year, some people can do that for 5, but eventually it's going to catch up with you. So whether that's you having a day of the week where you're not doing anything work-wise, you're doing things that are recovery, for you.
Yep.
So like for me, like fitness is a big thing. I need to make sure I'm getting that in. I need the meditation time. I recharge with people. But if I'm always working, again, you can blur that line. Is this working? Is this like a leisure thing? So really defining what are those things. And I had a mentor, maybe my first year, in the business, that said at the beginning of the year, you need to plan out your vacations or your downtime, whatever you want to call it. Because once you're in the thick of it, you are not going to want to pull back and make time for that. So you really got to carve that out on the front side.
Yeah, man, I love all of that advice. There's so much we could go on for a long time on that, but that vacation is huge. I don't know if you've ever done this. I had multiple vacations early on where we were planning to do something, and the week before I'd be like, I can't do this. I can't do it. I don't have enough, coverage and help, and we'll just have to cancel it and stay, and that is not a good place to be. That definitely leads to burnout, and being able to take care of your body and be fit and your mind and energy, all that, man, is just so huge.
I had a 3 a.m. I was in Japan. This was 2018, and it was a deal. I was up, negotiating. Got it under contract, and then unfortunately had to terminate. So it was like, man, all that was up for 2 hours in the middle of the morning. But it's that happens. It's that's the real estate. You leave, and that is the real estate.
Yeah. So you've had a pretty unique way of moving the needle in your business. You have a metric that is not one of the main metrics that the coaching companies put out there and everybody's got on the scoreboard, but this metric, you have stayed true to it, and it has moved the needle in your business. Tell everybody about the metric that you think is most important for your business.
Yeah. In this phase of my life, it's getting coffees with people a week. So I 2 to 3 is my baseline. And that shifts a little bit because when you're putting that time in, it's 30, 60, 90 days, you start to see the results and the accumulation of all that. And so some weeks are going to be busier. Some weeks, for good cause, you're out with people, you're actually doing, the business. But yeah, that's my goal, is just to be in front of people. My wife and I, we've got a 14-month-old at home, so I can't be out and as active, in one sense that I used to be. So this was my way of being intentional about building relationships with people. And again, having that rhythm built in, that's when the good stuff happens. And I would say also, on the coaching side of things, on the kind of gleaning from other people, it's the rhythm of having that. I don't come to the office looking necessary to get something from somebody, but it's the constant kind of rhythmic meeting, with people. And it's the same way with the coffees. You're just doing life with people, and the things come up, whether it's them. My first deal of the year came from that. I got coffee with the buddy. This was January 2nd. And he was like, man, I was so-and-so, he and his wife, they're living, they're renting out a basement, from some friends. They got 5 kids. They need their own place. I was like, yeah, they do. You should probably connect us. And I happen to know him as well. But that wouldn't have happened if we hadn't just made the decision to hey, let's catch up.
Yeah, man, that is so good, because When our families expand, this is a big inflection point for a lot of real estate agents because a lot of people that are really social have built their business off of just doing stuff.
Yeah.
Like you're just doing stuff and you're working a lot. And then all of a sudden your priorities and your whole timeline shift and you're like, oh, I can't eat dinner out with friends 6 nights a week. Or I'm not going to see this baby, you know? Like, what am I going to do? And you found a way to still have that social interaction, but put it into, like you said, a rhythm and a structure that's been able to be consistent for you.
And that's still good for me because, again, I still do get a lot of energy from meeting and connecting with people in a genuine way. So I also just need that personally.
Yep.
I know I can't get it, in the same way that I did before. So it's like, okay, now we're just moving that to a different time of the day, different time of the week.
You also put structure into the advice you gave earlier of going to the office. You were going to the office 1 day a week last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did the Bolst Ambassador program at the North Atlanta office last year, which was great for a lot of reasons. But really just to have a day where I know I'm going to be here in the office. I know I can work on all my admin, the things that honestly, that can fall down the priority list.
Oh, yes, they
I can forget it out pretty easily, but just having it, for me, it was Wednesdays. And so this year, I might start upping that to, 1 or 2 days, whether that's a half day, because just good things happen when I'm doing, that's where I get my newsletter out. And that's when I'm catching up on emails. And maybe there are things that I'm not as excited about doing, but I still need to do.
Get those coffees set.
Yeah.
You got to set them if you're going to go on them.
Yep, exactly.
Man, I love it, Kris. This has been such an awesome to hear your journey from getting started and finding a mentor, figuring it out on your own, going out on your own, but then you had to find the community and now the rhythm for this part of your life. Congrats on all the success.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Justin. Hey, look, you've been a huge part of that, and so was Bolst, so I appreciate you.
All right, thanks so much to Kris for being here and sharing this week. Everybody, thanks for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you again next week.